Downward trend is never a good sign. And that downward trend perhaps could be attributed to a number of reasons. Maybe we'll unpack that conversation as well. I may bring up the Tuesday City Council meeting with Neil Williamson as well. And of course, we'll take your thoughts and comments. In that Tuesday City Council meeting, newly minted City Attorney John Maddox highlighted the relationship with Gentry Locke. In any other city council meeting, that would have been the lead of the news cycle for an entire week. But when you have the council meeting play out like it did on Tuesday, it drowns the fact that Maddox talks about the financial relationship with Gentry Locke and how they're getting discounted legal services. They have now senior partners working on the case, and they had some leverage over Gentry Locke to the tune of $150,000 in damages. We'll talk about that with Neil Williamson as well. Like and share the show. If you have comments for the president of the Free Enterprise Forum, put them in the feed, and I will relay them live on air. Keith Smith is it San Diego?
No. I thought it was D.C.
Is it D.C.? Okay.
It's a CEO conference.
Oh, that's Riz Media?
Riz
Yeah,
Media.
I think that is D.C. Keith Smith is in D.C., so there will not no Keith Smith today, but he did send us the text that he often does prior to the show, and I love getting the jovial and humorous texts from the distinguished gentleman, which we got one this morning. Did you see it?
It's a cupcake.
It was a cupcake. It was a cupcake. It made me laugh, though. I mean, he oftentimes, and we enjoy laughing. Judah Wickow, are you feeling pretty good? All right, we can rock and roll when you're ready. Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and thank you kindly for joining us on Real Talk with Keith Smith. It's an absolute pleasure to connect with you guys on the I Love CVille network on a show that is presented by Yes Realty Partners, a name you can trust in real estate. Keith and Jonas Smith founded the brokerage Yes Realty Partners, and they are absolutely moving mountains in this trying real estate market for their clients, whether buying or selling. Yes Realty Partners, honest, trustworthy, and in the game we call real estate since 1987. That is, 38 years of experience for Keith and Jonas Smith and Yes Realty Partners. Judah Wickow is the director behind the camera. He makes the operation hum and stay online. We appreciate Judah Wickow. Our guest today is a household name. He is the president of the Free Enterprise Forum. He is as in tune with the news cycle as anyone in this 300,000 person region. He runs an organization that relies on your fundraising dollars and contributions. So if you are impressed with Neil Williamson, which I'm sure you will be on the show today, or any of the work that he does, tracking real estate, our local economy, tracking government, keeping us informed, please contribute and support the Free Enterprise Forum. Judah Wickow, studio camera, and two-shot as we welcome Neil Williamson to the program. My friend, how are you?
Good morning.
It's great to have you.
It's great to be here.
How about I start with an open-ended, I do this with Jerry Ratcliffe on the Jerry and Jerry Show. We call it scatter shooting, where if there's anything in the notebook, you have an opportunity to monologue on anything that's tickled your fancy. And then I'm going to get very specific with the Tuesday night city council meeting, and we have some tax collection data to review. But how about scatter shooting with Neil Williamson?
Well, scatter shooting with Neil Williamson, we've got lots of interesting things. There's a saying, a Chinese saying, may you live in interesting times, and we certainly do. I was speaking with a local reporter this morning, and he's like, can we have a day without breaking news? This is a short week, but I'm going to break some news here because It's always fun to break news with Jerry.
Thank you.
And Judah, of course.
Thank you.
We will be hosting, as I've mentioned before, the Samuel Miller candidates for the October 2nd candidate forum at the Hillsdale Conference Center at 6 p.m. That's not really news.
Yeah.
The breaking news is My dear friend Sean Tubbs is going to co-moderate with me.
Get out of town.
I got
Sean
him.
Tubbs.
Got him coming out, and
Good.
he's going to be my co-moderator. We will be working on the questions together over the next couple of weeks, and he will be joining me on the stage along with Fred Missel and Scott Smith, who are the two candidates for the Samuel Miller District in Albemarle County, the only contested race in Albemarle County.
The only contested race in Albemarle County, a Republican and a Democrat. Scott Smith, the Republican. Fred Missel, the Democrat. Missel works for the UVA Foundation. Missel connected long-term in this community. Scott Smith, newer to the community, although he's made some inroads quickly. The Samuel Miller District, the largest geographical district of any of them in Albemarle County, the wealthiest district, the Samuel Miller District of any, and a contested election is a good situation. How do you think this race has been playing out so far?
I commend the candidates. They've been, what I've seen so far has been sticking to the issues. They have different perspectives on the issues. They both come to it from different places. And I think accentuating those differences is what contested elections do.
100%.
And we firmly believe at the Free Enterprise Forum, contested elections make better candidates, better elected officials. I say that with all due respect to my friend Ned Galloway, who is running uncontested.
For the third time, right?
Third time, yeah. Who's afraid of a Ned? But it is clear to me that a contested election is what voters get the best picture of the candidates.
What is the last time we've had a Republican and a Democrat go toe-to-toe in the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors race? We've had independents.
Yes, well, there's an interesting Diantha McKeel ran as an independent first when she ran for Dennis Rooker's seat, and then her second run she shifted to a Democrat, which she had always been. Now, she had run for the school board. All school board seats run as independents. So it is, I think the independent moniker is probably most appropriate at the school board, and it's still appropriate at the Board of Supervisors. There is not a Democrat or a Republican way to fill a pothole. That's back to Ed Koch in New York. But the idea of local government is really about rubber meeting the road. And the reason I love local government is I run into these people at the grocery store. You know, you get to know them on a personal level that you don't get at the State House or at D.C.
Dave Shreve, who lost the Jack Jewett Democratic primary to Sally Duncan, got hammered, double-digit capacity hammered, stopped by our studio. I'm not speaking out of turn here. Judah. I don't think Judah would think I'm speaking out of turn. Stopped by here, rode his motorcycle downtown, had his motorcycle helmet under his arm, came into the studio and said, you know, you were right. I should have done some things differently, Jerry, with my campaign and had gotten more on the aggressive than I did. My plan was strictly door knocking. And then he said, and he's going to come on the show, and my hope is when he comes on the show, the skeletons will come out of what happened in the race. But he said, and I'm not speaking out of turn, that he underestimated the behind-the-scenes influence Diantha McKeel had in this race, in particular through her endorsement of Sally Duncan, and the behind-the-scenes influence Diantha McKeel had with knocking Dave Shreve and his campaign. And he attributes that lopsided loss to McKeel's significant clout and influence in the Jack Jewett district with voters and her endorsement of Sally Duncan. His words, not mine.
Well, I think that when you have an incumbent endorse a replacement that has meaning in the political science world, I will also say that Diantha McKeel, along with almost all of the supervisors, have a fairly strong constituent service mentality in returning phone calls, returning emails, and people remember that. If you don't return a phone call or an email, people remember that too.
Absolutely.
And so when someone who has been someone that you've counted on and has returned your call says, this is the person that I'd like to see in my seat, that does tend to carry weight in the political science community.
How do we include the impact or influence that maybe a city, urban policy lobbying group, Livable Charlottesville had in this race? Because
I-
they went immediately out of the gate with their backing of Duncan.
Well, I will tell you that I've known Dave Shreve for probably 20 years.
He helped in some, you can offer tremendous color on this. Dave Shreve was at one time part of the Diantha McKeel Brain Trust to get her elected and transition from school board to board of supervisors. And then there was a little bit of squabble, falling out, beef with Shreve being on the, you're going to have to help me with the exact board he was on. Was it economic development?
He was on the Economic Development Authority, and he was appointed there by Diantha McKeel.
And was asking very pointed questions of Diantha McKeel while on the Economic Development Authority, and those pointed questions caused a little bit of friction there.
I think that may be true. I will say that I, of course, attend many of the EDA meetings, and I found his contributions to be significant. And
he's a smart guy.
He's a very smart gentleman.
Yeah.
He and I differ on policy a great deal. He was a founding member of the Advocates for a Sustainable Albemarle Population, now defunct organization, but that really was looking forward to building a moat around Albemarle County and keeping people from coming in here from places like Williamsburg.
That was a zing at me. I was waiting for the first zing, and he did it in an approximately 13 minutes. The president of the Free Enterprise Forum. I grew up in Williamsburg. There will be more zings coming, I assure you. I like when he zings me. Shreve, in retrospect, I think he could have gone more on the aggressive with the real estate tax rate increases that were basically woven into Sally Duncan's rhetoric or her campaign advertising. She constantly used the word, we need to invest more into resources in Albemarle County. From my standpoint, how you invest more is potentially raise taxes. Shreve was opposed to additional tax exposure on personal property and rooftops. That's what appealed to me about Dave. But that race is yesterday. The race that is today and tomorrow is Smith and Missile. Give me the Monday morning quarterback on that race. And I know you don't take political stances. You guys are politically neutral at the Free Enterprise Forum. All right, I'll rephrase the question. How have you seen the race play out so far from an X's and O's standpoint?
From an X's and O's standpoint, I think that the differences are starting to come to bear, which is helpful.
Okay.
I believe, in advertising, they talk about a unique selling position, a USP. In politics, you really want to create differences between you and your opponent. And I think that those differences are starting to come into focus. Interestingly, when the two candidates were on your program, they
sparred a little bit.
They sparred a little bit, but there was a lot of agreement. And again, no one runs for local government for any position to ruin the community. They run to advance the community. It's really the solutions that they push forward.
The differences that were obvious to me were data centers, with Smith straight up being on the record, no way, Jose, and Missile saying we have to consider them. That was a clear, obvious difference to me. I would hope, and you are as on top of the content and the questions as any, I hope the data centers come up in very pointed fashion to both candidates. I hope the private school that was recently approved comes up in your candidate forum, because Missile was absent from that planning commission final vote. And that private school, I'm missing the name of it.
Forest
School, yes. There were 500 plus signers of a petition in opposition to this Forest private school. Missile did not show up to the Planning Commission meeting where the final vote was cast, which then pushed it to the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors for approval. Scott Smith utilized the platform a couple weeks ago to ask, Fred, why weren't you at this Planning Commission meeting where this final vote happens? It's interesting because if Smith can somehow galvanize that petition and the 500 plus signees, that could go a long way with bolstering his campaign, because we would say he is an underdog right now, historically, as someone who's running as a Republican in a very Democratic and liberal Albemarle County. I'm curious what you want to, if you have any commentary or analysis on the Forest School, the Planning Commission, how it could impact this race, and whether that could be a pointed question of some kind in your candidate forum.
Well, I think that whenever you have someone who has a long record of votes, remembering Fred Missel served on the ARB, the Architectural Review Board, prior to being on the Planning Commission, there is a plethora of votes that are on the record that someone can review and critique. That being said, I think the conversation about data centers is somewhat of a, it's not a red herring, but it's becoming a campaign slogan here. Data centers are one use for land. Albemarle County is currently considering data centers. The Daily Progress, when that conversation was coming up, put a picture on the front page of a data center from Loudoun County, I believe it was, and it was an enormous data center. Albemarle County is not considering anything of that size.
What's a front page?
Yeah, I know. The
I love you do.
The concern, and you should note, if you took the print edition online, the e-edition of the Daily Progress, you would note the caption on that page. Who do you think provided that photo?
Was it you?
Piedmont Environmental Council.
Peter Krebs, PEC?
I don't know who at PEC, but it was credited to PEC.
Okay.
That is false. That's a false narrative. It was clearly stated in the article that this isn't here. What Albemarle is talking about is smaller data centers. And quite frankly, when you get an organization the size of, say, let's use the term AstraZeneca. They might have a small data center.
Sure.
I mean, this office may run off of server farm, a small server.
Sure.
Well, you have a data center. Well, it's the closet back here.
Yeah.
And as you grow as an organization, you have to have a larger data center. And it is an ancillary use to some corporate headquarters is a data center that is not in the cloud, but is actually right there on site.
What'd you make of the AstraZeneca news? AstraZeneca, I'll set the stage for the viewers and listeners. This news broke, I think, was it last week?
July 22nd, the governor announced that AstraZeneca and Eli Lilly were coming to Virginia.
But he didn't say where.
He didn't say where.
Yeah, and then the Richmond Times-Dispatch, citing sources, I believe it was last week. Was it early this week?
It was last week.
Okay, last week. The Times-Dispatch, citing anonymous sources, confirmed that both AstraZeneca and Eli Lilly, biotech, biopharmaceutical companies, are going to invest billions of dollars locally. AstraZeneca specifically in Albemarle County, Eli Lilly and Goochland. And they're doing so to ride the proverbial coattails of the Paul Manning Biotech Institute that is coming online now on Fontaine Avenue. Another interesting twist on this, and goodness gracious, it's been a fantastic week for content creators with news, is the head of the Paul Manning Biotech Institute was formerly a senior vice president at AstraZeneca. So I'm someone that's always like the Ronald Reagan trust but verify. What's the role that the head of the Biotech Institute now at UVA played in potentially recruiting, seducing, romanticizing AstraZeneca, his former employer, to Albemarle County, miles away from his facility, when just a handful of months ago, he told everyone that's willing to listen, I'm going to turn Charlottesville and Albemarle County into the Silicon Valley of biotechnology here locally. I mean, exact words here. It's a phenomenal story here. Another layer to this onion is some folks in this community friction, opposition to how this was handled, because they thought there should have been more notification from Albemarle County about the AstraZeneca relationship to prepare from a quality of life standpoint, cost of living standpoint, traffic standpoint, all the above. I don't really buy into that. I have questions for you, and we can go open-ended first, but the questions I have for you is this tied to Ravenna Stations, Ravenna Futures, where AstraZeneca is going to go? The second question I have for you is, how's this going to impact the labor market, job market, with incremental jobs created here? And maybe I should start open-ended. What do you make of the AstraZeneca news? Why don't we start there?
Well, I think I have to start by quoting Leroy Jethro Gibbs. I don't believe in coincidences.
Right. Me either. I don't.
So
I don't either.
the idea that,
Yeah.
I think that was rule 3.
Yeah.
But
That is former employers coming here?
yeah, I there's some, I mean, there's just a feeling that maybe they were looking at Virginia, he was and, hey, how is this, and that type of thing.
Sure.
That being said, these kinds of things have a gestation period of years. And Albemarle County, for a couple of years now, has actually been a little more economic development friendly, dating back to the Roger Johnson era, where it was enable Albemarle was the strategic plan. And the question, of course, comes to me as one who's been in the real estate market here, where could you put such a thing?
Right.
And
You're talking billions of dollars as a headquarters. Where could this go?
where could it go?
Right. So you think Rivanna Station or Rivanna Futures?
I have no idea,
But that's the scuttlebutt.
I've heard that rumor,
Yeah.
but I know that the governor announced this potential issue July 22nd.
Right.
We got word of this last week, really out of the there's a grant, a committee of senior statesmen that are part of the large employer incentive fund that is a state fund, and each of those organizations, Eli Lilly and AstraZeneca, are receiving $10 million from the state from the Commonwealth to locate here. That being said, out of that is where we got this information.
Okay.
This sourced information that was reported by the Richmond Times-Dispatch.
Yep.
And re-reported by others. But as someone very close to this discussion had said, well, if the governor announced it July 22nd and a company has to make certain that it does its due diligence and engineering for a site, can that be done in a month?
Right.
How long does it take? And so I anticipate we may not hear anything more about this 60, 90 days now, because they're going through engineering review of whatever site they're looking at to see that, yes, it can work, and yes, it has the entitlements it needs, and yes, it has the infrastructure it needs. But
You don't think that's already been done?
I don't think the brass tacks of it has been done. They're writing plans now.
Okay.
They're looking at plans. What you did was a schematic. You did we should be able to do that. How you do it and how much it's going to cost to do it wasn't considered.
Yeah.
There are always mitigating factors on any site. And those mitigating factors can be topography, they can be streets, they can be sewer connections, it can be anything. But each of those has to be considered and calculated in. They are coming somewhere because the governor has announced it. I have a fairly good amount of faith in the reporting that I've seen and the people that I've talked to about this who won't talk about it.
You're talking about the Times-Dispatch reporting.
The Times-Dispatch reporting.
Okay.
And people that I trust that won't talk about this,
Yeah.
which makes it
A story.
clear to me.
It's a story.
It's a story.
Yeah. If they don't talk about it, it's a story. We've been in this game long enough where if there's no talk, it's a story. If it's not a story, they tell us it's not a story. Rivanna Futures or Rivanna Station, doesn't that seem like the logical fit?
Rivanna Futures is a greenfield
Yeah.
opportunity
Yeah.
that is owned by Albemarle County,
Right.
who is looking to develop infrastructure.
Was it 450 some acres?
Yeah, I don't remember how much is in the development area.
Okay.
But the majority is in the development area. I think there are about 88 acres that are in the rural area. But that's right off of 29, which wouldn't be bad.
Yep. Close to the airport.
Close to the airport. That is not as important as 29 because
Okay.
you're going to be, if it's a manufacturing facility, you're going to be moving product. So you need to think about ground transportation or train transportation. So locating somewhere that's close to that and makes it efficient is critically important.
William McChesney says, how about Norfolk Research Park?
I think that's a possibility as well. Where else do you have greenfield development, which is what everyone prefers because otherwise you often have remediation. But I think that just people that have been here a long time know of several, probably 5, sites that might fit such a use.
What's that short list? You got Rivanna Stations, Rivanna Futures, Norfolk Research Park, that Virginia Eagle. area, 29 South.
which is going before the Planning Commission
Right.
Tuesday, I think, or did it go? Yeah, it was Tuesday's coming
We have a
up.
planning commissioner, Lonnie Murray, watching the program. Maybe you can offer that insight for us, Lonnie Murray.
Well, there's a housing project that's going in that site.
Yeah.
And I saw it on a Planning Commission agenda, and it wasn't this week because I did attend virtually the Planning Commission this week, or maybe it was this week. Anyway, there's a residential site that's there, so it's not properly zoned at this point.
Yep.
So while it's a possibility, and it is in a great location for logistics, being right there on 64, I'm not convinced that that site is the site that's being considered, but I really don't know.
So interesting. What is the economic impact? First, when does this come online? We're guesstimate here, and then economic impact here.
Well, let's see. When does the project that hasn't been announced come online?
Yep.
I think you're looking at a minimum 36-month build-out.
Interesting. That long, huh?
Well, for a headquarters and manufacturing facility,
Yeah.
that long seems reasonable to me.
Okay.
And if there's any rezoning, it might add another 12 months. So
Economic impact?
economic impact, it's hundreds, not tens. It's hundreds of jobs.
Yeah.
And where will those people live is the next step. And
Especially a throttle real estate market already.
Well, why is it throttled, Jerry?
It's throttled for a number of reasons. I mean, we can talk red tape. We can talk a development area that's tied to 5%. This is where Neil's going to say it's not even 5%. The topography doesn't even allow the 5% of development to happen. The development to happen in the 5% because topography is not suited for development. We could potentially convert some office space into residential. It's throttled because of interest rates. It's throttled because of COVID loans, where people are still sitting on 2% and 3% COVID loans. Probably may never some get off those loans. It's throttled because of the expensive nature of purchasing. It's throttled for a number. It's throttled because buyer demand is suggesting maybe they're waiting till next year. The Fed is talking about a rate cut this month, more at the end of the year, potentially some at the beginning of this year. So why buy now when you could see a 1.5 reduced market in Q2 of next year? All those reasons, I would say it's throttled.
I would suggest that the government created scarcity is the greatest reason for real estate valuations being increased.
Yeah, but that government-created scarcity is a direct result of voters putting people into office to create said scarcity because they want green space, they prioritize the environment, they don't want traffic, and they want quality of life.
They are voting for higher taxes.
Yeah. Well, they're not. I push back respectfully. You know I love you. They're not voting for higher taxes. They're voting for green space, quality of life, less traffic. We don't want to be the Fredericksburg. And then the people they're putting to office, they want them to economic development. They want them to figure out incremental sources of tax revenue.
So economic development.
Yeah, is going to create people coming here, which is going to make the real estate market more expensive. That's what you're going to say.
I don't have to say it.
Yeah, right. I totally get what you're saying. It's going to put I love doing this with you. I genuinely do. Because you keep up with it as much as I do. And Judah's loving it back there. I am not going to say that the economic development is going to create an expensive real estate market. I know that economic development is going to put more buyers in the pool, which is going to create more competition for housing. But that economic development also creates additional tax revenue where we can stabilize real estate tax rate increases, not like the 4 cents that we just did.
So if that were the case, and you had an economic development opportunity that was going to push huge amounts of tax dollars in and hire few people, would that be a good thing?
Yes.
Data centers.
Yeah, data center. And I knew you were going to go with that, with the data center. The problem with the data center is the environmental concern. The problem with the data center is what happens to the data center when the data center is no longer the priority. Well, the problem with the data center is the light pollution, the water suckage. It's a straw in the ground. Louisa County is getting a dose of data center now. It went from bring on the $11 billion from Amazon. Then they said we're going to do more because you guys have rolled out the red carpet for us. Then they said we're going to invest even more than the $11 billion. Now Louisa County is revolting on the data center.
Well,
look at Nova and how they respond. Chief Kotcha said this on the show yesterday. You want to see a fiery council meeting? Put a data center on the agenda.
I completely understand. I went to high school in a place no one had ever heard of in the middle of a cornfield in Northern Virginia. Today, that is the hotbed for data centers in Loudoun County. Loudoun County, I'm dating myself, but who else would date me?
Your wife?
Loudoun County had 4 high schools when I was growing up.
And now?
4. And now has 12.
But the data centers don't drive employment.
No, they don't. But they made it, Loudoun County was in a position to make a strategic decision. Here's something no one down here knows. Right now, Redskins Park is located in Ashburn.
Yep.
Okay, you know that part.
Yep.
Did you know that the owners of Redskins Park have put in a land use application to convert that to a data center?
I did not know that.
Yeah. And they have no intention of doing so anytime soon.
Yeah.
But
that just drives the value for their
drives the
holding.
value for the property.
Yeah, right.
And it's just logic. And so I think that the way Albemarle is approaching data centers is interesting, to say the least.
Emily Kilroy. She's going to get some props here, right?
Emily,
You're a big fan of Kilroy.
Emily and I have known each other a long time.
Yeah.
And
I hope she's watching. Emily, I hope you're
I
watching.
anticipate she is, and I promised her that I would make certain to skewer her today, because there are times where Emily makes me crazy.
Kilroy, when are you coming back on the show?
Yeah, she won't come back.
She spent an hour with us, and she's like, "Good night." He's asking me pointed questions on the show here.
I thought she did a great job.
She did a great job.
But-
Didn't you think I was fair with her?
You're always fair,
Okay.
Jerry. I'm sorry, am I at a Trump cabinet meeting? The whole idea behind this is diversification of revenue.
Yeah.
And employment.
Yeah.
I would really like to see Albemarle County be a place where my children and grandchildren can grow and work.
I get that. All right, here's a question that needs to be asked with AstraZeneca. Is Albemarle County offering tax breaks for AstraZeneca like they did with Home Depot?
If they do, it will be in public after the announcement.
Yeah. I would imagine the answer is yes. And I would imagine the best opportunity for tax incentivization from Albemarle County for AstraZeneca is Rivanna Futures, Rivanna Station, because Albemarle County owns the land.
Well, Rivanna Station, Albemarle County doesn't own the land.
Sorry,
Rivanna
Rivanna
Futures,
Yeah.
Albemarle County owns
Right,
the land.
right.
And there could be some sort of sweetheart deal for that, but that would be discussed first in a closed session of the Economic Development Authority, and then in a closed session of the Board of Supervisors, but then would have to be discussed in the open and voted on in the open by the Board of Supervisors.
Right. I'm looking at the county website, 462 acres of land located on Boulders Road off Route 29 in northern Albemarle. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to drive tremendous value for this gentleman's jurisdiction, Greene County, who is adjacent to where it's located. I think homes in Greene County are going to absolutely appreciate considerably. And I had a significant heavy hitter in town tell me earlier this week, I won't utilize his name, he watches the program, that this is going to also drive tailwinds and demand for CRE, specifically office space, commercial in Albemarle County and around Charlottesville. Time will tell. So much to cover here. I got so much I want to cover here. I want to get to Tuesday night's fiasco. Those are my words, not yours. I don't know if you would describe it as a fiasco. I call it as fiasco. The city council meeting, Chief Kachis, a camping ordinance, an encampment ordinance. He's like, you guys asked me, council, to put this ordinance together. Sean Tubbs, love Sean Tubbs. He publishes a story on the CVille Weekly, not on his community Substack. It's published outside the normal publishing window of when CVille Weekly releases content. They never release fresh content Friday, Saturday morning. This story came out. The timing of the story was before the meeting on Tuesday night, which is probably why it was released Friday night, Saturday morning, when Tubbs's coverage of Kachis, this camping ordinance to manage the houseless population in Charlottesville, is published on the CVille Weekly. It immediately goes bananas on social media, specifically with Nakia Walker and her contingent and Livable CVille and their contingent. This then creates an organized campaign against the ordinance. Kachis goes before council on Tuesday night, taking verbal arrows left and right. Friend of the program, Greer Achenbach, took bazookas left and right, bazookas. Council pretty much left these folks out to dry when it was council who came up with the idea. Tuesday night's fiasco, open-ended. Where do you want to start on that?
Well, first, I want to start on I know too much. Sean Tubbs submits an article to CVille every Friday.
Okay.
That's his deadline.
Okay.
So what CVille chooses to do with it beyond that has nothing to do with Sean.
Yeah.
It has to do with the publication.
Absolutely.
But
They released it early.
I'm not arguing that point. I'm just suggesting Sean always does his story on Friday.
Yep.
That being said, this meeting was noticed the week before, and the agenda was out, and it included this on the agenda. Anyone could see that on the agenda. That being said, I think that we should examine other localities across the nation that have dealt with homeless populations, and how have they dealt with it, and what has been successful. I firmly believe, the Free Enterprise Forum firmly believes, that every human being has value. That being said, every business should have the opportunity to succeed. That's not a guarantee of success, but an opportunity. And when those two things run into conflict, someone must deal with it. I thought Chief Kachis yesterday was very good on your program.
Thank you.
In saying,
I thought so too.
Saying point blank that I don't have the authority to move somebody who's sleeping next to your lunch table.
Right.
And you're paying to be at that lunch table. I noted a couple of restaurateurs in the audience.
Mike Rohde was in there.
Yeah.
Wearing shorts. Yeah, I love Mike Rohde.
I didn't notice what Mike was wearing.
I did. David Toscano was in there. He tried to speak. We spoke to David Toscano this morning, Judah and I, and he was not able to get in the draw or the lot, whatever it's called,
right,
to speak. But he was there to speak, but didn't get picked.
Right. Well, the
lottery, if you may.
Yes, but you have an opportunity at the end of the meeting. If you stay all the way through the meeting, you have a second opportunity to speak.
But then you're dealing with John Hall.
Well, John is energetic, but the bottom line for this is that I also think there is a. We wrote a blog yesterday saying Charlottesville, there's a problem. So if you go to freeenterpriseforum.wordpress.com, you'll see what we believe, and I believe that a shelter will help, a low barrier shelter. But I was speaking to a heavy hitter in town, as you call them, and someone that's involved with the Salvation Army and has been examining this issue. Well, that low barrier shelter kicks everybody out in the morning. Where do you think they will go?
Probably around the low barrier shelter. Well, Tonsler Park.
Or the downtown mall?
Yeah. Well, perhaps. The new Salvation Army head is now on the record saying that Fifeville is not the best place for a low barrier shelter because the largest aggregation of addiction in the city is in Fifeville. And why would you put a low barrier shelter in the area where addiction is most prolific? His words.
I understand that point, but at the same time, what about a beacon of hope within that district?
Yeah, I thought the Fifeville spot was perfect.
Well, I mean, I don't have a dog in that fight, but I think that that's just one of the silver buckshot needed to solve the issue.
Yeah.
Robert Liberty, you get $50.
Yeah, here's $1. Yeah. We routinely plagiarize Robert Liberty's silver buckshot, not silver bullet phrase, moniker.
Right. But I think that there's a different issue as well. I've been lucky enough to be doing this for about over 20 years, and city council chambers are horrible. You really are a small group can shout down a chief of police.
Yeah.
That's not good for public discourse.
No.
And
it was embarrassing.
And the chair, in this case the mayor, is challenged to control it somehow.
And I don't think Mayor Wade, and I hope Mayor Wade hears this, did a good job.
I will say...
He constantly used the word please, 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 please. There's better ways to manage that.
Well, I will say that Albemarle County used to meet in a smaller space, a much smaller space. Room 241 was connected, and the good old days in that small room. now they meet in Lane Auditorium, which is a big space.
Yep.
And you've seen pictures of me in that big space with seats available and the balcony open. But one of the benefits of that big space is it diffuses some of that tension.
Yeah.
And
they also manage the meeting with police presence better. The people on the dais manage the crowd better.
I will say they do not allow cheering.
Yeah.
And they will, if you cheer, they will throw you out.
100%.
And I've never been thrown out, but I've watched people be thrown out.
I went to a school board meeting, and I forget what the topic was about. A school board meeting, and was like getting a bit boisterous because I'm an emotional person. And Graham Page, who I believe was the school board chair at the time, and Kata Cuff said, "Sir, you will not speak out again, or you will be removed." And then I stopped.
Well,
and like pointed to me.
Well, attracting attention in a negative way, Jerry. Yeah. Imagine that happened in school a few times. The idea of controlling a meeting and giving people the opportunity to speak during their time to speak, and then giving people who you disagree with the opportunity to speak. I will defend to the teeth people I disagree with having the opportunity to speak.
Me too.
I am big on that idea.
For sure.
But to then have a member of the bar speak out from his seat, yelling down the chief of police, is just a bad look, Charlottesville.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. The ordinance, this is a perfect segue into your blog post. I have it in front of me, the headline, Charlottesville's Difficult Conversation. The ordinance shot down, tabled indefinitely. The unruly, I'm going to use a gentle word, the unruly congregation in attendance at Tuesday night's council meeting flexed their muscle, intimidated and bullied council into tabling a decision indefinitely, although council was the impetus, along with city manager Sam Sanders, to draft the ordinance and have the police chief present it. The police chief said, okay, now we don't have a framework. He came on the program yesterday and said, without this framework, the Charlottesville Police Department absolutely now will not do anything about homeless or houseless individuals camping out in public spaces like the downtown mall. He caveated by saying if they're committing a crime, doing something against the law, then they can do something. But if they are strictly camping out a homeless or houseless individual, including next to, example, the Hamilton's outdoor dining area where people are enjoying steak and cocktails on date night, the police department can't do anything about it now, nor will they.
Well,
this is going to get worse before it gets better.
Interestingly, this is a property rights issue. The city is a property owner, and the city is choosing not to enforce their property rights even while renters or owners are utilizing adjacent property for commerce. How does that work? Absent that, where do those businesses go? I mean, the downtown mall is, I would say that the downtown mall is a boutique kind of place, but it doesn't drive sales tax revenue the way Barracks Road does, frankly. But Barracks Road can keep people out because it's private property.
Yeah.
And this is a city park. The city could, if it chose to have the camping ordinance, do something about that. But the city is choosing to defer. If I were someone who owned property on the downtown mall, I might have an opinion about that.
I do have an opinion on it, and you know, and that's I do own, and I find it backstabbing the policy. I find it disingenuous. I find it lacking foresight. I find the leadership lacking courage and gumption. I find the leadership, bowing down to a couple hundred activists and not listening to the silent majority that's afraid to speak because they don't want to be labeled. I mean, outside of Greer, Achenbach, and me, I don't think anyone's speaking out on this. And maybe that's shame on us for not galvanizing in numbers to speak out against this. I talked to another heavy hitter yesterday, and he said, the folks like us don't speak out against this because we're working. We have stuff to do, and we don't go to these meetings. And maybe that's the case. How does it segue into tax collection? I mean, you got straight hard data here. And Judah's got slides, I think.
Right. If the last report that we did, which was the
Dan Pettit says you look fantastic, by the way.
thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
The Q1 report for 2025 showed a continuing trend. We put this out earlier this year, and I'm getting the Q2 numbers probably late this afternoon, so it'll be coming out in the next 2 weeks. But if you look at just comparing Q1 2025 to Q1 2024, and you look at Charlottesville, Charlottesville is down, let's see here, 2.53% compared to 2024. Well, for Q1, that's fine. But wait a minute. You need to have a long memory. In 2024, Charlottesville was down for the whole year. In fact, as I look at the numbers, in 2024, Charlottesville was down in various months 19.63% in 1 month, from 1.2 million to 981. So they ended up being down for the year in sales tax revenue, which represents 1% of the actual activity. They were down $600,000 in sales tax revenue. Now, a question came up in your show yesterday, does that include meals tax? No, it doesn't. It's sales tax. But it's always sales tax. And I have data going back to 2006. Okay. And really...
So that's not lodging tax either?
That's not lodging tax either. This is just sales tax.
Okay.
And
internet sales?
Internet sales are included as of, I want to say it was 2015, 2016, somewhere in there, internet sales. And that's based on where the point of delivery is, not the point of sale. But in sales tax revenue last year, in 24, Charlottesville received $14.3 million. In 2023, they received $14.9 million. And if you recall, the chamber puts out this report. I just do the numbers, and they spoke to Chris Engel, and he said, "Well, we're in a point of contraction about 2024." And I think it's important to note you don't always go up. I agree, but you're in a trend. If you have a year that's down, and then when you compare quarter one to quarter one this year, you're down compared to a down year.
100%.
So 100%. I am very concerned about Charlottesville's sales tax revenue, and I'm very interested to seeing what the halftime report is, which will be coming out in the next couple of weeks.
And then recently, Bonnie and Reed yesterday announces they're closing the restaurant where Brasserie Saison was. Stefan Friedman invested a lot of money into that, labor and business model. Alakazam closes. The proprietor of Alakazam, she says on the record, and Greer Achenbach referenced this in her public comments, that traffic and sales volume is down 30% year over year with her toy store in the mall.
Well, I think that's true, but when death of a business is bad, period. Business people, all of them are optimists. You have to be to go into business. Yeah. That being said, there's a churn of restaurants here in Charlottesville. I mean, how many restaurants have been in certain places? There is a natural churn. Businesses like Alakazam, a little bit different story. However, she was also quoted not so long ago stating that the tariff impacts would impact her business as well. And then you also have legacy. Where are you in your life cycle as a business owner? Mm-hmm. What is your legacy? What is your succession plan? So those are all things that enter into when a business closes.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But we also are, you're one of the sharpest people in Central Virginia. When you have the houseless making it unwelcoming to come downtown, people are not going to come downtown as much. especially parents with children, and it's a toy store. Children are important.
And I know a local shop owner on the downtown mall who tells her clients to only come during the midday hours of the day. That's the only time that she feels comfortable bringing her customers to her store.
Yeah, and that's terrible. And imagine if you're a restaurant and your business model is tied to dinner, or take it a step further, your business model and your profit are tied to what happens after dinner with serving drinks and cocktails, live music, entertainment until 1:30, 1:45 in the morning. You know, I think we have a serious problem here. And I've been you've been ringing this alarm. I've been trying to ring this alarm. Greer's been ringing this alarm. And these are my words, they're not your words. I'm not trying to put you in a tough spot, just like I prefaced it with Chief Kachis. The leadership we have on the dais now is intimidated by activists to really solve this problem. And solving the problem is enforcing the fact that they own the mall. You can't camp here. You need a different spot for it. Hell, it's the 50-year anniversary of downtown next year. The 50-year anniversary of one of the most prominent pedestrian malls in the nation. I mean, and that's not hyperbole, folks. One of the most prominent pedestrian malls in the country is Charlottesville. I just don't see anything being done.
Yeah, I agree. I think
You got a lot of comments coming for you.
I think there's a solution that needs to be grassroots-driven
Okay.
solution. There's a need for housing. There's a need for compassion. There's a need for solutions for the unhoused. To say, get off the downtown mall is not a solution. Where are they going? There are solutions. They will be expensive. Sam Sanders has said that clearly. But if that's the solution the city wants, the city should work together to find that solution so that the commercial enterprises can continue and we can treat in a empathetic way those who are unhoused.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. Chief Kachis made a point on the show yesterday that the city can't even find a for-profit organization or nonprofit organization to run a shelter. The city has the money for a shelter, but no one is willing to run a low-barrier shelter. I mean, think about how difficult that business model is. Snook made the point, and I think Michael Payne made this point on Tuesday night's meeting, we're more than a year away for a low-barrier shelter coming to fruition. I think we have this perfect storm downtown where now the police, they were just eradicated of power to manage the houseless with this ordinance being shot down. That's what happened Tuesday night. We have council saying they're more than a year away from a shelter materializing. This is a perfect storm for worst before it gets better scenario, which sucks locally. And I just don't see anyone doing anything about it. I'm being told that the folks are over at the Haven have a number to exit, and that number to exit the Haven, it has a five handle, 5 million. And if they want the Haven gone, it's not even close to that market value. I'm being told if they don't get that number, they're just going to double down on what they're doing over there at the Haven. Call that whatever you want, viewers and listeners. I'll just let you make that interpretation. It's getting messy. And what's Chris Engel doing about it? He's the head of economic development. What's Chris Engel gonna say? He had a commentary on occupancy downtown. He's like, oh, it's a healthy scenario. I think the occupancy was like, what, a point? Something in the neighborhood, like 1 point?
Right.
Vacancy?
Vacancy,
yeah,
right.
on the downtown mall. And I pushed back on that. I'm like, Chris, the storefronts that are being occupied now in the mall are not tax revenue driving storefronts. You got CRHA on there. You got Operation Hope on there. Operation Hope is an assimilation back into society from incarceration to assimilate back into society as a normal citizen, nonprofit.
But
CRHA is not driving revenue.
CRHAs may not be driving revenue, but Operation Hope is an entity that pays property taxes.
They pay property taxes. Is CRHA?
CRHA, I'm not certain what their property tax status would be.
Right.
I believe the city at one point owned that, but then it transferred to CRHA, and I don't know, that speaks to property taxes, not sales taxes and meals taxes and other things that, when the pizza joint was in there, they were generating.
Right. Alakazam's now not going to be doing sales tax anymore. Bonnie Reed's not going to do sales tax. How long has Commonwealth Sky Bar been vacant? I mean, forever, since COVID. We're talking years. Alan Kajine's been vacant over there.
Well, I mean, there are many venues that haven't reopened. Draft.
Stefan Freeman, a co-owner there.
Again, nothing happens absent a willing property owner. And the willing property owner may be willing to sit on that property with a long view that this too will pass and it will be solved. And that view may be accurate, but they may not want to take the risk of opening at this point.
Lonnie Murray, watching the program, he's got a comment. He's emphasizing, I'm speaking as an individual here. He says, there have been other Virginia localities with a more laissez-faire attitude towards the real estate development that have had higher tax rates per capita. Local governments typically lose money on residential development, particularly when it is in rural areas and not mixed use or compact. It seems to me that the mix of uses is critical to keep taxes low. The invisible hand of the free market is not a panacea. After all, would we ever assume that if we deregulated the pharmaceutical industry that they'd make insulin less expensive? That said, there certainly is a role for the free market, but I think about it more like a playground. A playground without rules is dangerous, but a playground with too many rules is no fun.
Well, that I appreciate that comment, Lonnie, and I agree. A playground with too many rules is no fun. I probably broke a few of those playground rules over the years, but that actually speaks to a report we issued the end of last month, the Local Government Spending Index. And Albemarle County has a landmass of 722.61 square miles. Their average rate of spending increase, adjusted for inflation and by per capita, average each year is 2.32% over the 20-year period we studied, 2004 to 24. But it adjusted for inflation, cumulative spending increased by over 55% during the study period, while population and school enrollment increased by 35.31% and 8.94% respectively. Inflation-adjusted per capita spending increased by 17.71% since 2004. So what we're seeing as we look at these localities, we examined all of the localities in our footprint, and population is not the only driver. And school enrollment clearly is not the driver. Nelson County came out number one in the LGSI study. And Nelson County has experienced almost 28% drop in school population in that 20-year period. So what accounts for the spending increase? So I push back a little bit. As you further develop compactly, you further urbanize is kind of the term of art that's being used. You also see higher demands on government services. So people who are in urban communities tend to expect government to do more. You tend to have a public works department and the like. When you're out in the country, maybe in a gated community, you have different expectations.
I moved from that community.
Oh, I forgot. That's right.
I'm not there anymore.
You're not gated anymore.
Not there anymore.
You're in the enclave, but not gated. It is really a different animal when you are living in some place that has a higher density per square mile. Yeah. Significantly higher density per square mile. Expectations of your public safety as well as your public services.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Very fantastic explanation. We have to get to John Maddox. In any other city council meeting, this is the talk of the town. John Maddox says, during Tuesday night's meeting, this guy, I think he's going to be like one of our kind of guys here. He makes pop culture references when talking about Gentry Locke, the law firm that's representing Charlottesville in this new zoning ordinance lawsuit. By now, if you don't know Gentry Locke, which is a high-power, high-dollar law firm, missed a filing deadline that caused the default judgment. Then Gentry Locke had to go back to the judge basically on their knees, hat in hand, and say, please, 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 give us a second chance. We have everything we need. Give us a second chance so we can keep this going. The judge eventually ruled in their favor, allowed things to keep moving forward. But John Maddox, the city attorney, says, this is why we stay with Gentry Lock. The people that missed the filing deadline, we got them removed from the case, and we had them replaced with senior partners. Gentry Lock then agreed to handle all our work at a discounted rate. And if the filing deadline, if the judge had to give us a second chance or forgive us with the filing deadline, Gentry Lock agreed to $150,000 in damages that would have gone to Charlottesville. And because of all those, and then senior partnership was going to continue working on this. Because of all those elements, the city chose to stay with Gentry Lock. John Maddox makes the comment, eventually this is going to be turned into a movie. I hope John Grisham writes the script, and I hope Danny DeVito plays me in the movie. John Maddox says, Chief Conscious does a double take when he's saying this on the dais, chuckles a little bit. No one else knows John Maddox because he's new to the job, so they don't get his humor. They don't laugh. I find it effing hysterical. I'm watching at home on the live stream. Did he just say this?
Well, the question is, who really wants Danny DeVito to play them in a movie?
Danny DeVito's like a 4'5" chubby bald guy, right? Is he not?
Well, I mean, I know Judah wants Robert Redford to play him in the movie.
Danny DeVito is extremely marketable. I think he's got Jersey Mike's.
Jersey Mike's.
Yeah, where he's sitting in a fountain at an office park fishing while pitching Jersey Mike's.
I will say that Danny DeVito is a great actor, and
he's fantastic.
I've enjoyed his work for years.
Absolutely.
I don't think he looks anything like John Maddox.
I know. He looks nothing. It was a great joke,
yeah,
but it fell flat.
It did. It fell flat. But I think the understanding, what people seem not to understand is that even if city had a steady person at city attorney, they would have hired counsel for litigation.
Sure.
That is good practice.
But that's, if they had consistency with city attorney, the odds of missing the filing deadline would be way less.
Agreed. But that being said, hiring an outside firm is not bizarre or unusual for litigation. Gentry Lock is a good firm.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that work on a case.
Sure.
And
huge mistake, though.
A huge mistake.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. That is a huge mistake. But that being said, there is a significant 2 years of work that's been done by the firm.
Keith likes to use institutional memory.
And that firm has that institutional memory.
Sure.
And bringing anybody up to speed on that would be a challenge.
And frankly, experts Gentry Lock in this line of work.
Yes.
This is one of their specialties.
It is. Calendars, not so much.
Yeah.
But the idea behind keeping them, I always thought it was going to be cheaper to keep them. The idea that they had if you lose this, you're going to give us $150K is interesting, but not that interesting.
Because you're saying it's peanuts.
It's peanuts in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it's peanuts in the grand scheme of things. Jason Howard, we'll wind down the show here. This hour has flown by. In fact, we're at an hour at 65 minutes here. Jason Howard says, Neil, what percentage of the city budget is funded by meals taxes and retail sales taxes?
I'm trying to remember the whole size of the city budget is in the...
I think it's 200 and some. I'll
200 and some, and it's not a pittance when you look at $14 million or so of sales tax.
265.2.
265.2. So $14 million of that 265.2, which is probably around 1%.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, and I'm a liberal arts major.
14. That would be 10 would be 26. So that's about 5%. If the 14 million is about 5% of 265.
Okay, so it's about 5%.
Yeah.
Again, this is why I was a liberal arts major. But so 5%, you put in some meals tax in there, bring it up to 7%. Probably is, the meals tax isn't going to be as much as the sales tax, but it's not insignificant. The lodging tax is different because it has a specific task associated with it. So if you're talking about something that represents 7 to 10% of your budget,
that's a lot.
That's a lot of your budget.
That's a lot of your budget.
And this is the part that they want to increase to reduce reliance on property taxes.
Right. That's a lot. That's a lot, ladies and gentlemen. Closing thoughts. You were awesome, dude. This is so fun.
Well, it's always fun to be with you, and I hope that I have my job when I finish.
Free Enterprise Forum, we got to support it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we got to support it. Support the Free Enterprise Forum, dude. He does awesome work, guys. Free Enterprise Forum, you can find it online, freeenterpriseforum.wordpress.com. There is a donate to the Free Enterprise Forum button. Very straightforward. It's on the menu bar. Click it, check it out, donate. Read the blog post, Charlottesville's Difficult Conversation. He published it yesterday. And then there's another one that I found absolutely fascinating, Almiral's Black Swan, which was adapted from the comments from the Board of Supervisors meeting on the 3rd of September.
Correct.
He does an incredible job of taking what some folks would call dry material, governmental material, and making it approachable through pop culture references and speaking a language that everyone can understand. And that is a big-time skill. I think he does a great job with that. Judah Wickhauer's behind the camera. Neil Williamson needs no introduction. My name is Jerry Miller. Real Talk is Keith Smith's show. He's out of town. Not sure if he's back next Friday. He's a busy guy with real estate. But we will continue. Thank you kindly for joining us, guys, on a Friday. So long. That flew by. We so much